The moment your child collapses on stage is seared into your memory forever, etched like a negative photograph that time can't fade, no matter how hard you try to blink it away. I was sitting in the third row, dead center, watching my 12-year-old daughter, Sophie, perform Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. Her small hands glided over the piano keys with the grace of someone twice her age. But then, without warning, her fingers trembled, then froze. My name is Elena, and for the past 15 years, I've dedicated my entire existence to protecting my daughter. I have built her world out of bubble wrap, double-checked every detail, every appointment, every pill, every single thing that could ever go wrong. But in that moment, as Sophie's face drained of color and her body crumpled sideways off the piano bench, I realized something gutting. I had failed. "Sophie!" I screamed, halfway down the aisle before her head even hit the polished wood stage. Gasps echoed behind me, parents rising from their seats, confused murmurs spreading like wildfire, but I barely registered them. The sound of my heels against the wooden stairs blurred into the thundering pulse in my ears as I sprinted onto the stage. "Give her space," someone called. No time for that. I shoved past the gathering crowd, falling to my knees beside her. Sophie's tiny chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. Her skin felt clammy, too cold, too pale. I knew immediately. I knew exactly what this was. Her meds. She'd missed her medication. Except that was impossible. I watched her take them. I stood right there, handed her the pill case myself before we left for the recital at Maplewood Art Center. "Mom," Sophie's voice was barely a breath. "I don't feel good." "It's okay, baby, it's okay. I'm right here," I whispered, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. My hands fumbled for her purse, practically ripping the zipper open as I dug for the pill case. My fingers trembled so badly I almost dropped it. When I finally managed to snap it open, my blood turned to ice. No. Inside weren't her pale blue tablets, the ones that help her body stay stable. Instead, there were little white candies, sugar. Someone had swapped her medication for sugar pills. My chest locked tight. "Someone call 911, wine," I shouted, my voice cracking under the weight of panic. I don't even know why I said wine. Maybe my brain misfired under the flood of terror. "Call an ambulance." "Oh, Elena," a familiar voice drawled, slicing through the chaos like a dagger dipped in poison. I whipped around. Of course. There stood my sister, Vanessa, leaning casually against the velvet curtain in the stage wing, arms crossed, that same insufferable smirk plastered on her face. The same one she's worn since we were kids. "She's probably just nervous," Vanessa said with a dismissive wave. I rose halfway to my feet, my voice trembling with disbelief. These aren't her pills. Someone switched them. These are candy. This is deliberate." "Really?" Vanessa tilted her head, raising one perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Well, maybe a little humility would do her good. She's been getting awfully full of herself lately, don't you think?" The words hit me like a physical blow. The air went out of my lungs. I swear for a second the world stopped spinning. "What did you say?" I breathed. "Elena," another voice now, sharper, clipped. My mother, Margot, appeared beside Vanessa, already shaking her head, lips pressed into a thin, disapproving line. "Stop causing a scene. Sophie is fine. She's just seeking attention, same as you always did." Sophie's breathing was deteriorating fast. Her grip tightened on my hand, her little fingers trembling. Her eyes, so much like her father's, were wide with fear. "My daughter needs emergency medical attention," I said, forcing steel into my voice. I grabbed my phone. Someone tampered with her meds. "Don't you dare call 911, Margot hissed, lunging toward me. Think of how this will look. Think about Vanessa's wedding next month. You'll ruin everything with this nonsense." I didn't even flinch. My thumb hit the emergency dial button. "Hello, my daughter collapsed at Maplewood Art Center. She has a serious medical condition. Someone tampered with her medication. She can't breathe properly. Please hurry." Margot tried to grab my phone, but I stepped away, putting my body between her and Sophie. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Vanessa's smirk falter, just slightly. As the operator confirmed help was on the way, I heard Vanessa whisper sharply to Margot, "She's always been jealous of the attention I get. This is probably just another one of her stunts." I turned my focus back to Sophie, gently brushing hair from her clammy forehead as sirens echoed faintly in the distance. "Hold on, baby. Stay with me. You're okay. You're okay," I whispered, even as my own hands trembled. When the paramedics rushed in minutes later, it felt like hours. They lifted Sophie onto a stretcher, strapping an oxygen mask over her face. Her small hand reached blindly for mine as they wheeled her away under the blinding stage lights. I squeezed it. "I'm right behind you. I'm coming." The whispers in the audience were deafening, but none of it mattered. Not the gawking parents, not the murmuring strangers. All that mattered was Sophie. But as the ambulance doors swung shut behind her fragile body, something deep inside me, something that had been dormant for nearly 4 decades, snapped. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was fire. "Elena!" Margot's shrill voice rang out as I sprinted for my car. "Where do you think you're going? We need to discuss how to handle this. We can't let this get out." I turned slowly. There they were. My mother, prim in her designer silk dress, pearls gleaming in the stage lights, and Vanessa, still with that trademark smirk, though now it wavered at the edges. "I'm going to the hospital with my daughter," I said, my voice calm, cold. And after that, I stepped closer, lowering my voice just enough that only they could hear me. "I'm going to teach both of you what real humility feels like." Vanessa scoffed. "Is that a threat?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. For the first time since Sophie collapsed, my hands were steady as I turned the ignition and followed the ambulance into the night. They thought they knew me. The quiet sister, the obedient daughter, the one who always backed down, always smoothed things over, always swallowed the pain. But they had never seen me as a mother protected her child. They were about to. And I knew exactly where to start. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in hospital's small hospital room. I sat by Sophie's bedside, watching her fragile chest rise and fall beneath the crisp white sheets. Her dark hair fanned out against the pillow like spilled ink. She looked so small, so breakable. The doctor had assured me she would recover, that the damage hadn't been permanent. But those hours, those agonizing hours waiting to know if my daughter would be okay, they had aged me a decade. My phone vibrated for what felt like the 100th time. I barely glanced at the screen. Margot, again. "Coming home soon? Need help arranging flowers for Vanessa's bridal shower tomorrow." I stared at the message like it was written in another language. A bubble of bitter laughter rose in my throat. Flowers. They were texting me about flowers. I locked the phone and dropped it back into my purse. My gaze shifted immediately to Sophie. Her lashes fluttered slightly. Was she waking? "Sophie?" I whispered, leaning forward. Her eyes opened, drowsy, glassy, but alert. "Mom?" "I'm here." I slid my chair closer, brushing her hair back from her damp forehead. "I'm right here." She blinked slowly, trying to orient herself. What happened?" "You had an episode at the recital." My voice softened. "But you're okay now. You're safe." Her brows pinched. She fiddled with the edge of the blanket. "Mom, it was Aunt Vanessa, wasn't it?" A rock lodged itself in my throat. "What? What do you mean?" I heard her," Sophie murmured. Her small voice was raspy but steady. "She was talking to Grandma last week. I was in the hallway. She said I was showing off, playing Chopin, that I needed to learn my place." My stomach twisted. "Sophie, she switched my pills. I know she did." Her lower lip trembled, but her eyes, those impossibly brave, beautiful eyes, locked on mine. Why does she hate me so much? I felt the sting behind my own eyes. I wanted to lie, to tell her it wasn't true, that people weren't this cruel, that family wasn't supposed to hurt you. But the truth was a terrible, sharp thing. Before I could answer, a familiar voice broke the tension. Knock, knock. I turned toward the doorway. There stood Jenna, my best friend since college, holding a plush teddy bear in one hand and a slim stack of folders in the other. Hey, sweet girl, she said softly, setting the bear next to Sophie. I brought you something cuddly. Sophie managed a tired smile. Thank you. Can I steal your mom for a minute? Jenna glanced at me. Just outside. Grown-up talk. I squeezed Sophie's hand. I'll be right back, baby. In the hallway, Jenna's expression shifted. Her smile vanished, replaced by something sharp, determined. You brought it? I asked quietly. She nodded, handing me the folder. Your father's will. Full trust documents. Everything. I opened it with trembling hands, running my fingers over the familiar signatures. The last time I'd seen this was 6 months ago, at the lawyer's office, when Dad's will was read. When Vanessa had been so sure the trust would be hers. When the lawyer announced that Dad had left control to me instead, I had never seen her so furious. Jenna's voice was low, careful. What are you thinking, Elena? I closed the folder slowly, my grip tightening. I'm going to make sure Vanessa's perfect little wedding never happens. Her eyes widened. Elena, she tried to hurt my daughter, I snapped, then caught myself, lowering my voice. On purpose. And Mom is already trying to sweep it under the rug, just like she's done my whole life. Jenna laid a hand on my arm, grounding me. That's a lot of money to mess with. Are you sure? I inhaled deeply, then exhaled. My heart was a thunderstorm, but my voice came out steady. She doesn't deserve a wedding, not when my daughter almost died. As if the universe were listening in, the elevator dinged open down the hall. Elena! Of course. My mother. Margot strode toward us like a general inspecting troops, her designer suit pressed within an inch of its life, her silver hair immaculate. Her heels clicked sharply against the tile floor. Why aren't you answering your phone? She snapped. The florist needs decisions. Vanessa is beside herself with worry. I stared. You're joking? About what? She blinked, as if genuinely confused. About how you're ruining everything? I took a step forward. My daughter is in a hospital bed because Vanessa tampered with her medication. You can't prove that, Margot said smoothly, her tone sharp as glass. And I won't have you spreading vicious lies about your sister. Not now, not when her wedding is in 4 weeks. My mouth fell open. A wedding funded by this? I slapped the folder Jenna had handed me. This trust? Dad's trust, which I control. Or have you conveniently forgotten that? Margot stiffened. Don't be ridiculous. Your father intended. My father left the trust to me because he knew exactly what kind of people you and Vanessa are. Margot narrowed her eyes. I expect you at the house in an hour. We need to discuss how to move forward. This unfortunate incident cannot be allowed to derail the family. I laughed, humorless. Oh, it's going to derail plenty. Margot turned on her heel, heels clicking down the hall. Jenna glanced at me. What are you thinking? She asked again. I flipped open the folder, scanned the clause I remembered so well. Dad wasn't stupid, I said slowly. He put in a moral turpitude clause. If either of us commits acts of gross misconduct, we lose access to the trust, permanently. Jenna blinked. And you have proof? Oh yeah. I pulled out my phone and tapped the security app linked to Maplewood Art Center. The recital hall had cameras everywhere, even backstage. I hit play. Vanessa's voice came through, crisp as ice. Maybe a little humility would do her good. Jenna's eyes widened. Oh, my God. That's pretty damning, right? My voice shook, but not from fear, from something stronger. And I've got the medical records, witness statements. I'm meeting with the trust lawyer tomorrow. Jenna let out a low whistle. Vanessa's wedding, the venue, catering, flowers, all paid through the trust? I nodded, every last deposit. She grinned slowly. You know, your mother is going to lose her mind. I closed the folder and smiled. For the first time since the recital, something inside me felt steady, solid. Good, I said. It's time she learned what real consequences feel like. Jenna nudged me. So, do you want help with the paperwork? I turned to her, grinning despite myself. Actually, I need help with something bigger. Like what? How much do you know about wedding planning? Jenna's smile widened. Enough to know how to unplan one. We shared a look. And for the first time since Sophie collapsed on that stage, I felt something that had been missing for a long, long time. Power. The office of Mr. Whitaker, our family's trust lawyer, looked exactly as you'd expect. Polished mahogany walls, leather chairs, and a panoramic view of downtown that probably cost more than most houses. I sat across from his heavy oak desk, papers spread out before me. Beside me, Jenna tapped brisk notes into her tablet, all efficiency and quiet fire. Mr. Whitaker adjusted his glasses and leaned forward, scanning the documentation I'd brought. So, let me make sure I understand, he said, voice low but steady. Your sister has already committed to over $150,000 in wedding-related expenses, all through the trust? I nodded and pulled up the transaction logs on my phone, scrolling until the damning details filled the screen. Venue deposit, catering, floral design, dress, decor, all set to clear next week. His brows lifted slightly. And you have video evidence of her deliberate tampering with your daughter's medication? Yes, I slid the USB drive across the desk. A few clicks later, the grainy security footage filled the screen. Vanessa's voice rang clear in the pristine silence of the office. Maybe a little humility would do her good. A slow, visible wince crossed Mr. Whitaker's face. He rubbed his chin, muttering, "Lord help me." The video continued, catching every word, the arrogance, the cruelty. When the clip ended, Whitaker sat back, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. Well, the moral turpitude clause in the trust is quite clear. Your father was exceedingly specific. Any beneficiary who commits an act of serious misconduct or malicious harm forfeits their rights to the trust. I swallowed. So I can stop the payments? Whitaker didn't hesitate. You can do far more than that. He tapped the original trust documents. You can freeze Vanessa's access entirely, permanently. My phone vibrated on the desk, skittering slightly against the polished wood. Vanessa. I ignored it. Another text popped up, Margot this time. Whatever you're doing, stop it immediately. You're embarrassing the family. My lip curled. How quickly can we make this happen? I asked. I can draft the paperwork now. Whitaker's fingers flew over the keyboard. File it within the hour, but you should be prepared. This will cause quite a stir. Jenna gave a snort. Good. Whitaker chuckled under his breath, but sobered quickly. Family trusts are complicated. They're designed to protect family members, yes, but also to protect the integrity of the assets. And frankly, This is exactly what your father wanted you to be able to do. In the parking lot afterward, Jenna caught my arm. Your phone is blowing up. She wasn't exaggerating. The notifications had doubled in the 15 minutes we'd been inside. Vanessa. Elena, payment didn't go through. The venue manager is threatening to cancel. Answer your phone. Margot. I warned you. Stop whatever it is you're doing. You're humiliating this family. A slow, fierce grin tugged at my mouth. It's starting. "Want to grab coffee?" Jenna asked. "I have a feeling we're gonna need it." Absolutely. The Perch Cafe was just across the street. We hadn't even gotten our drinks yet when my phone buzzed, buzzing its way across the table. Ethan, Vanessa's fiancé. I hesitated, then answered, "Hello?" "Elena, what's going on?" His voice was tight, frazzled. "The wedding planner just called me. The payments, they all bounced." "Oh." I let the surprise drip from my voice like honey. "How strange." "Vanessa's freaking out, says you're doing this on purpose." "Did she also tell you about the recital?" My tone sharpened. "Did she tell you about what happened to my daughter?" A pause. She said Sophie had a panic attack or something." "Right," I exhaled sharply. "Ask her about the sugar pills. Ask her why my 12-year-old ended up in the hospital." Another pause, this one longer. "What? Sugar pills?" "Check your email in 5 minutes," I said coolly. "You might want to sit down first." I hung up before he could reply and nodded at Jenna. "Send it." She hit send on her tablet, launching the email with everything: the security footage, medical reports, and the trust documents. "You think he'll actually read it?" Jenna asked, sipping her latte. "Oh, he'll read it," I replied, "especially when the venue cancels." My phone buzzed again, this time Margot. I answered. "What do you think you're doing?" Her voice could have sliced glass. "Protecting my daughter." "By ruining your sister's wedding?" Margot spat. "This is childish, Elena. I raised you better than this." "Did you?" I stirred my coffee slowly. "Because I remember you raising Vanessa to believe she could do anything she wanted without consequences. How's that working out?" "If you don't fix this immediately—" "You'll what?" I cut her off. "Take away my inheritance? Cut me out of the will? Dad made sure you couldn't touch the trust. That's why he left it to me." Her breath caught. "Your father would be ashamed of you." "No," I said softly. "He'd be ashamed of you. For defending Vanessa. For letting her hurt your granddaughter. For pretending it wasn't your problem." There was a long silence. "I'm coming over," she snapped. "We're discussing this face to face." "I'm not home." I glanced out the window. "And even if I were, there's nothing to discuss. The papers are filed, the trust is frozen, Vanessa's perfect wedding is over." I hung up. A new text came in. "Ethan, just watched the video. We need to talk. All of us." Jenna leaned forward, watching my face. "Phase 2? I nodded slowly. "Phase 2. I pulled out a second folder from my bag, bank statements showing suspicious transfers from the trust straight into my mother's personal account. Line after line labeled as maintenance expenses. Jenna peered over my shoulder. "Is that?" "Oh, yeah." I tapped the numbers. "Mom's been skimming from the trust for years. Spa days, shopping trips, that secret apartment in the city." Her brows arched. "And with her access frozen, she'll lose the house." Jenna sat back, blowing out a slow breath. "The house, your childhood home." I closed the folder gently. I thought about Sophie, about her collapsed on that stage, about every single time Vanessa hurt me or hurt someone I loved while Mom looked the other way. My hand tightened around the folder. "Good," I said. "Let them lose it all." Jenna smiled, slow and dangerous. "So, time to call Whitaker again?" "Yep." But before I could even unlock my phone, the cafe door banged open with a jingle of bells. And there she was, Vanessa. Her perfect makeup was streaked with mascara, her hair was frizzed at the edges. She was clutching her phone in one hand and trembling with visible fury. "What have you done?" she spat. I leaned back, took a slow sip of my coffee. "I taught you about humility." Vanessa slammed both hands onto our cafe table so hard that the cups rattled. Her eyes were wild, rimmed red from crying, though that familiar undercurrent of venom still twisted her features. "Fix this now," she hissed. I didn't flinch, didn't move, just stirred my coffee slowly, watching her unravel. "I can't," I said simply. The trust is frozen. Pending investigation of, I tapped my chin, pretending to think. Oh yes, criminal misconduct. Her breath caught. Criminal? She repeated, almost a laugh, but it cracked at the edges. Oh, come on. It was a joke, a prank. Nobody actually got hurt. My blood turned to fire. A prank? I stood, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Sophie could have died. Oh, please. Vanessa rolled her eyes, waving a dismissive hand. She was fine. She spent one night in the hospital. One. The fury that had been simmering all morning boiled over. You replaced her medication with sugar pills. Do you have any idea what could have happened if the ambulance hadn't arrived fast enough, if the doctors hadn't known exactly what to do? Vanessa's mouth opened, maybe to argue, maybe to deflect, but another voice cut through. Ladies? A nervous-looking cafe employee stood nearby, glancing anxiously between us. I'm going to have to ask you to. It's fine, I said, grabbing my bag. We're leaving. Outside, the bright sunlight did nothing to soften the tension. The air itself felt electric, buzzing with the aftermath of everything that had been set in motion. Waiting by the curb was Ethan, arms crossed over his chest, watching us with an unreadable expression. As we stepped out, he pushed off the car and walked over. Vanessa, he said quietly, we need to talk. Not now. She shoved past him, trying to grab his arm, but he stepped back. Yes, now. His tone was firmer this time. About the video Elena sent me. Her entire body stiffened. What? What video? Ethan held up his phone. The security footage from backstage, at the recital, where you admitted to switching Sophie's medication, where you said she needed to learn humility. That's not, her voice wobbled. That's not what it sounds like. I heard it, Vanessa. His expression was a mixture of disbelief and growing disgust. Her eyes snapped toward me. You recorded me? No, I said, folding my arms. The venue recorded you. I just requested the footage. She paled. Vanessa lunged, but Ethan grabbed her arm before she could reach me. Stop, he snapped. Do you realize what you did? You could have killed your niece. Her voice dropped to a desperate whine. I didn't mean, it wasn't supposed to be serious. She's always showing off. You don't understand how it feels. Ethan let go of her like she burned him. You know what? I think I do understand. You've always made everything about yourself. Right then, Vanessa's phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at it, and her face went from pale to ashen. The dress shop, her voice cracked. They just canceled my final fitting. They're refunding the deposit. I sighed. Yeah, that'll happen when the payments bounce. A sharp, brittle voice broke the tension. What is going on here? We all turned. There, standing on the sidewalk, was Margot. Her Chanel suit gleamed in the sunlight, her hair as pristine as ever, but her face was flushed, whether from rage or panic, I couldn't tell. This ends now, she declared, storming toward us. Whatever game you're playing, Elena, it stops. Oh, it's not a game. I pulled another envelope from my bag, thicker this time. It's an audit. Care to see the results? Margot faltered for half a second, but masked it with indignation. Don't be ridiculous. I handed the envelope to Ethan instead. Bank records, detailed documentation of unauthorized transfers from the trust directly to Margot's personal account. Ethan's brows shot up. What? Margot's face drained of color. Those were maintenance expenses. For what? I snapped. Spa trips? Luxury handbags? The secret apartment in the city? Her lips thinned into a bitter line. You wouldn't. I stepped closer. The Foundation Trustees has already reviewed it. Your access is frozen. Both of you. Vanessa spun toward her mother. Wait, what? What apartment? Margot shot me a look that could slice flesh. This is absurd. You've got 30 days, I continued, holding out one last document. Eviction notice. Chestnut Lane House is part of the trust. You don't get to live there anymore. Margot's face collapsed, just for a split second. You wouldn't do that to your own mother. Oh, I absolutely would, I said, and I am. You'll regret this, she hissed, voice shaking. Family is forever, Elena. I met her gaze, cold and steady. No, family is a choice, and you made yours the moment you chose to protect Vanessa after she tried to hurt Sophie. Ethan looked between the three of us, jaw clenched. I think we need to postpone the wedding. Vanessa whipped around, her voice cracking. No, we can't postpone. We can't. He wouldn't even meet her eyes. I can't marry someone who would hurt a child. I can't. Tears flooded Vanessa's face. Please, Elena, you have to fix this. I'll apologize to Sophie. I'll do anything. It's too late. I checked my watch. The Foundation Trustees meets in an hour. After that, neither of you will ever see a penny from Dad's money again. Margot's hands balled into fists. You think this is over, but it's not. Blood is thicker than water, Elena. I turned toward my car. No, not when that blood is poisoned. As I pulled away, I checked the rearview mirror. Vanessa was sobbing into her hands. Ethan stood stiff and silent, watching her fall apart. And Margot, always proud, always composed, stood ramrod straight, her shoulders tight, her face ashen, but refusing to collapse. My phone buzzed. A text. Sophie, when are you coming back to the hospital? I smiled. Time to go home. There was only one family member who mattered now, and she was waiting for me. The attic of Chestnut Lane House smelled exactly as I remembered. Dust, old paper, and the faint, lingering scent of lavender potpourri my mother used to hide in ceramic bowls. The kind of scent that tried to cover up what was rotting underneath. I hadn't planned on coming here today, but Jenna insisted. If you're cutting them off, she said as we pulled into the driveway, we need to make sure you've got every document, every scrap of paper, no surprises. Boxes were stacked in precarious towers, labeled in Margot's neat, unforgiving handwriting. Elena's childhood, tax records, Vanessa's awards. The hierarchy of her priorities still perfectly preserved in cardboard. Look at this, Jenna called from behind a stack. She held up a bundle of envelopes, faded at the edges, their seals still intact. Letters, addressed to you. My heart thudded. What? Jenna turned them over in her hands. Elena, these were never opened. My hands shook as I reached for the top envelope. The handwriting was unmistakable. Dad's. Sturdy, block letters softened by years of writing the notes he used to slip into my lunchboxes. I tore it open carefully. The letter was dated barely weeks before he died. My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, then I finally found the courage to tell you the truth. I've watched for years as your mother and sister hurt you, and my silence made me complicit. I am sorry. I am so, so sorry. I left the trust to you, not just because you're more responsible, though you are, but because you're the only one who understands what it means to protect what's right. I know what Margot and Vanessa are. I've known for longer than I care to admit. I should have done more. I should have shielded you. This is my way of doing it now. I hope one day you'll forgive me for not being stronger. Love, Dad. The paper trembled in my hands. Elena? Jenna's voice was gentle now. You okay? I swiped quickly at my eyes. He knew, I whispered. All this time, he knew. A sharp noise made both of us jump. A floorboard creaked behind us. What are you doing up here? We spun around. There, standing in the attic doorway, was Margot. Her face was pale, but her jaw was locked in that familiar iron line of disapproval. Behind her, a shadow moved. Vanessa, puffy-eyed, her mascara streaked, but her expression still hard. I held up the letter. When were you going to give these to me? Her lips curled. Those are private. They're addressed to me, my voice cracked. Dad wrote these for me. You hid them. To protect you, she snapped. Your father was confused near the end, saying things he didn't mean. Like the truth? My hands trembled, but not from fear. Not anymore. Like how you've spent decades manipulating both your daughters, one into thinking she's a golden child who can do no wrong, and the other into believing she's not worth fighting for. Get out of my house, Margot hissed. I smiled coldly. It's not your house anymore. Her face went utterly blank. You're bluffing. Check your bank account, I said simply. Go ahead, I'll wait. Her hands trembled as she yanked out her phone. Her fingers flew across the screen. A second passed, then another. Then her face collapsed. What have you done? Her voice was a whisper now. What Dad should have done years ago. I folded the letters carefully. I stopped you. Mom? Vanessa's voice was ragged. Ethan called off the wedding. He won't even talk to me. He said he saw the footage. He saw everything. She looked so small suddenly. Her face pinched, her shoulders hunched. Fix this, Vanessa pleaded. Please, Elena. I'll apologize to Sophie. I'll do anything. No. I shook my head. You had every chance. I begged you to stop. I begged you to change. Then I'll tell everyone, she snapped, eyes flashing, what you're really like, how you've always been jealous, always wanted what I had. I laughed. Go ahead. I pulled out my phone. But first, explain this. I tapped play. The attic filled with Vanessa's voice, crisp from the security footage. Maybe a little humility would do her good. She's too perfect, just like her mother. Turn that off, Vanessa shrieked and lunged, but Jenna stepped between us. Too late, I said, slipping the phone back in my pocket. It's already online, along with the hospital records and the police report. Police report. Margot's voice trembled now. Tampering with medication is a felony. I stepped closer. The detective wants to speak with both of you tomorrow. You'd send your own sister to jail? Vanessa whispered. You could have killed my daughter, I fired back. She's fine only because we got lucky, because the ambulance came fast, because the doctors knew what to do. But you didn't know that. You didn't care. You just wanted to hurt her, to hurt me. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. You're a monster, Margot finally whispered. Your father would be ashamed. I held up the letter again. No, he'd be proud. He wrote it all down. He left me the trust because he knew this day would come, because he knew someone needed to protect this family from the two of you. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophie's nurse. She's asking for you. I folded the letter slowly, my hands steady for the first time in weeks. I have to go. I walked toward the attic stairs. At the top step, I paused. The eviction notice gives you 30 days, I said over my shoulder. I suggest you start packing. Elena, wait! Vanessa's voice was small now, pathetic. Please, I'll apologize to Sophie. I'll fix it, I swear. I turned to look at her one last time. You know what's funny? I said quietly. All those years you thought Sophie needed a lesson in humility, but it turns out the one who needed that lesson was you. Outside, Jenna exhaled hard. Wow, that was intense. It's not over, I said, sliding the letters into my bag. Not yet. They'll try something else. They always do. What makes you so sure? I held up the letters, the handwriting already familiar now. Because Dad warned me, and this time, I'll be ready. As we drove away, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. There they were, Margot and Vanessa, standing on the porch of the house they were about to lose. Without their money, without their power, without their armor of superiority. They looked small. Smaller than I had ever seen them. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Unknown number. You've made a terrible mistake. Blood is thicker than water. I showed it to Jenna. See, I said, smiling grimly, already starting. What are you going to do? Exactly what Dad would have wanted. I set the phone down. Protect what's right. The video arrived at exactly 3 a.m. Anonymous sender, no message. But the thumbnail alone made my heart hammer against my ribs. I tapped it open. The grainy footage showed a hotel conference room, cheap carpeting, folding chairs being stacked in the corner. And right in the middle, front and center, stood Margot and Vanessa, voices raised above the scrape of moving furniture. "This is all your fault," Margot hissed, jabbing a finger at her daughter. "You couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? You had to teach Sophie a lesson, and now look what's happened." Vanessa's reply was too garbled to make out clearly, but the fury in her posture was unmistakable. I watched the video twice, then a third time, fingers trembling, as I hit forward and sent it straight to Mr. Whitaker, my trust lawyer. His reply came within minutes, blunt, efficient. "This is exactly what we needed." By the time the morning sun burned through the clouds, I was back at hospital, gathering Sophie's things for her discharge. "Mom," she asked softly, swinging her legs off the bed, Are we going home?" "Yeah, baby," I kissed the top of her head. "We are." I was zipping her backpack when someone appeared in the doorway. "Ethan." "Can we talk?" His voice was careful, guarded. Sophie glanced between us. "It's okay. I need to pack my teddy anyway." In the hallway, Ethan looked rough, dark circles under his eyes, collar wrinkled like he hadn't slept, or maybe hadn't even gone home. "I called off the wedding," he said, eyes fixed on the floor tiles. I nodded. "Yeah, I figured." He raked a hand through his hair. I heard everything. Vanessa's not who I thought she was." He pulled his phone from his pocket and turned the screen to me. "Look." A text thread. "Vanessa." The messages were rapid fire, unhinged, rage, guilt trips, threats, back to fake apologies, then more threats, then begging. My stomach twisted. Classic. She won't stop. She's already trying to set up some kind of replacement wedding party. Private event, friends only. Says it's a celebration of love in the face of adversity. I nearly laughed. With what money? "That's just it," he exhaled. "She's asking guests to help fund it, calling it a love offering." I pinched the bridge of my nose. Unbelievable. But before I could say more, my phone buzzed. Another anonymous text. I read it once, then twice, my pulse kicking into overdrive. "Your mother is trying to file for emergency guardianship of Sophie, says you're mentally unstable." I showed it to Ethan without a word. His eyes widened. "No way." "Oh, they're really going for it," I muttered. "They never give up. Elena." "Elena." Both our heads snapped up. Vanessa's voice echoed down the hallway, and there she was, charging toward us in oversized sunglasses, dark circles clearly visible behind the tinted lenses, clutching a glossy gift bag in one hand. "You need to leave," Ethan said sharply, stepping in front of me. "I'm here to apologize to my niece," Vanessa insisted, voice cracking. "I brought her a present." She tried to step around us. I blocked the doorway to Sophie's room. "No. You can't keep me from her forever." Her voice turned shrill. "I made a mistake. I want to make it right." I stepped forward, letting the steel in my spine show. A mistake is forgetting a birthday, forgetting to pick someone up. What you did was a crime. You deliberately tampered with life-saving medication. "The police already questioned me," she shot back, chin high. "They can't prove anything." "Oh," I tilted my head. "Then what about the new video? The one where you and Margot are screaming about how you had to teach Sophie a lesson. Her face went paper white. What? Video? The one that's being added to the police report as we speak. She blinked rapidly, lips parting. You're lying. Try me. From behind me, Sophie's small voice carried through the door. Mom, can we go home now? Vanessa tried to lean around me, holding out the bag. Sophie, honey? I shoved her back a step. Stay away from my daughter, or the next call I make won't be to the lawyers. It'll be to the district attorney. Vanessa flinched as though slapped. She took a step back, then another, shoulders curling inward. I think you should leave, Ethan added, his voice final. Vanessa didn't argue this time. She turned and half stumbled toward the elevator, muttering to herself as she went. We stood in silence until the doors dinged shut behind her. Ethan shook his head. I can't believe. I almost married her. Yeah, I sighed. I can. Back inside, Sophie was sitting on the bed, hugging her teddy. Was that Aunt Vanessa? She asked. Yes, but she's gone now. I crouched to her level, brushing hair out of her eyes. And she's not coming back. Good. Her voice was firm, steady. My phone buzzed. A text from Mr. Whitaker. Emergency hearing tomorrow regarding Margot's guardianship petition. Don't worry, we've got everything we need to shut it down. My heart thudded, a mixture of fury and exhaustion flooding me. Of course they wouldn't stop. Of course they'd try something this low. Sophie tugged my sleeve. What's wrong? Nothing, baby. I forced a smile, zipping her jacket. Just more drama from Grandma and Aunt Vanessa. They're not going to stop, are they? I exhaled, tightening her zipper. No, but they can't hurt us anymore. A voice carried from the nurse's station, loud, sharp, familiar. I'm her grandmother. I have a right to see her. Margot. My stomach twisted. Time to go, I whispered, grabbing Sophie's bag. We ducked through the side hallway toward the rear exit. As we crossed the parking lot, I spotted a familiar figure, Jenna, sitting in her idling car, waving us over. Need a getaway driver? She grinned as we climbed in. Sophie giggled, just a little. As Jenna pulled away, I glanced back through the rear window. There was Margot, bursting out of the hospital doors, scanning the lot, her face tight with rage. But we were already gone. Where are we going? Sophie asked as Jenna turned onto the main road. Home, I said, squeezing her hand. And then tomorrow we're going to make sure they never try something like this again. How? I thought about the video, the police report, Dad's letters, the trust documents, about every weapon we now had lined up like chess pieces on the board. By showing everyone exactly who they really are. Jenna merged onto the highway. Behind us, the hospital and everything inside it, Margot's rage, Vanessa's crocodile tears, faded into the distance. Sophie leaned against my arm, small but strong, steady. Are we going to be okay? She asked softly. I squeezed her hand tighter. We already are, baby, I whispered. We already are. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Whitaker. Everything's ready for tomorrow. They won't know what hit them. I smiled, watching the road unfold ahead of us. Good, because this time, the lesson in humility would be permanent. The replacement wedding party was already in full swing when I stepped through the gleaming glass doors of Briarwood Country Club. Soft string music floated from hidden speakers. Round tables sparkled with rented crystal and silver, the scent of overpriced floral arrangements saturating the air. About 50 people milled around, dressed in cocktail attire, Vanessa's friends, colleagues, and a few extended relatives who clearly hadn't yet caught wind of the disaster brewing beneath the polished surface. And right there, near the champagne fountain, stood Vanessa. She spotted me almost instantly, her face drained of color. "Oh, God," she hissed, ducking behind a display of orchids. "Security! Security!" 2 club employees started moving toward me, but I didn't flinch. I set my briefcase down on the nearest table, calmly unfastening the latch. "They won't help you," I said without looking up. "I'm still a member here. Dad made sure of that." Margot appeared beside her daughter, storming over like a thundercloud in heels. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, voice brittle. "Haven't you done enough?" "Actually," I said, flipping open the briefcase, "I'm just getting started." Murmurs rippled through the room. Heads turned. Someone lowered the music. From the crowd, Ethan emerged. His hands were shoved into his pockets, his face hard. "What's going on?" "Elena! Elena's trying to ruin everything!" Vanessa shrieked. "Again! On my special day!" "Special day?" I laughed, snapping the briefcase shut and turning to face them fully. "You mean this fake wedding party? The one you're funding with donated money because you lost access to the trust?" Gasps floated through the crowd. People exchanged glances, shifting uncomfortably. "You want to know why she lost access?" I raised my voice slightly. "Because she tampered with my daughter's medication. She put Sophie in the hospital, and Margot helped cover it up." "That's a lie," Margot's voice rang out, sharp and cutting. "Don't listen to her." "Really?" I pulled out a stack of folders, handing them to the closest cluster of guests. "Then perhaps you'll enjoy reviewing the security footage, the hospital records, the police reports, and, oh yes, the Foundation's trustees' official findings." "Lies!" Vanessa screamed. "All lies!" "Oh, we're not done yet." I opened a second folder. "Let's not forget Dad's letters." "Letters?" someone near the back asked. "The ones Margot hid after he died," I said clearly. "The ones where Dad explained why he left the trust in my hands, because he knew exactly what kind of people Margot and Vanessa really were." A tremor visibly passed through the room. Guests shifted. A few quietly set their champagne flutes on side tables. One woman near the back pulled out her phone and started recording. Vanessa lunged for the briefcase, but Ethan caught her by the arm. "Don't," he said quietly. "It's over." Her hands shook as she tried to yank away. "You're just jealous," she spat. "You've always been jealous of me." I blinked, then laughed. "Jealous? Of what, Vanessa? Of your fake life? Your lies? The way you hurt people and expect everyone to pretend it's fine? I'm your sister." "No." My voice dropped. "You're just someone who happens to share my DNA." The crowd was deathly quiet now. Phones were out, cameras recording. Even the bartender had stopped pouring, watching with wide eyes. "Enough." Margot stepped forward, squaring her shoulders. "Your father would be ashamed of you." I turned, slowly, pulled one last document from the briefcase. "Don't you dare invoke Dad," I said softly, "because I've got his last letter right here. Want to hear what he really thought of you?" I unfolded it slowly, letting the paper catch the light. Vanessa's breath hitched. "Please, don't." "Like you didn't do this to Sophie?" I shot back. "Like you didn't try to humiliate a 12-year-old child?" Silence. Every eye in the room was locked on us. "You know what's funny?" I scanned the crowd. "All these people donated money to help you save face." My fingers made air quotes. "Did you tell them where the trust money went? Did you tell them about Sophie?" "I think," Ethan said, stepping forward, his voice heavy, "this party is over." The ripple became a wave. People were already gathering their things, murmuring under their breath. Someone walked over to the sound system and pulled the plug. The string music cut off mid-note. Even the champagne fountain burbled to a stop, bubbles dying like the last breath of a deflated dream. "You've ruined everything," Margot hissed. "No," I corrected, snapping the briefcase shut. "You ruined it yourselves. I just made sure everyone knew." I left the folders on the table. Didn't look back as I walked out. Didn't need to. As I pushed open the doors, I could already hear Vanessa's sobs echoing across the emptying ballroom. In the car, my phone buzzed. "Sophie." "How did it go?" I smiled. "It's done. Want to go play piano at the hospital conservatory?" Her reply was instant. Yeah, I heard there's a little girl in the cancer ward who loves music. I want to play for her. On my way, I typed. Before I even pulled out of the parking lot, another text popped up. Jenna, did you do it? I laughed aloud. Yes, and you know what? It didn't even feel like revenge. It felt like justice. That evening, I sat in the hospital conservatory watching Sophie playing Chopin for a little girl in a wheelchair. Her tiny audience clapped with delight as Sophie's fingers danced across the keys. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, Sophie smiled. Really smiled. Not the forced, brave kind. A real one. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I stared at it for half a second, then deleted it without replying. They were wrong. Family isn't forever. Family is a choice. And sometimes the best choice is to walk away and build something better. Sophie's final notes floated into the air, soft as a whisper. This was what mattered. Not revenge, not money, not even winning. Just love, music, and the truth, finally set free. The autumn wind scattered leaves across the quiet cemetery as Sophie and I walked the familiar path to Dad's headstone. She carried two things in her hands. One, a single red-tipped rose, his favorite, and the other, clutched tightly in her small palm, was a simple white sugar candy. Our private joke now. A reminder of how everything had changed. When we reached the polished granite marker, Sophie knelt gently and set the rose down, smoothing the petals with her fingertips. I played Chopin again yesterday, she told the headstone softly. The whole piece this time, no interruptions. Her voice carried no bitterness, no anger, just pride. Love. Sophie placed the sugar candy beside the rose, tucking it neatly against the granite base. A symbolic offering, a goodbye to the past, a quiet victory. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket, another email forwarded from Margot's attorney. I didn't even bother reading it. Delete, same as the others. The last one I opened had been the same recycled script, half apologies dressed up in guilt, wrapped in desperation. It was always the same. You'll regret this. Family is forever. You've ruined everything. I looked over at Sophie. No, not ruined. Saved. Mom, Sophie pointed across the cemetery lawn. Isn't that Ethan? Sure enough, Ethan was walking toward us, hands tucked into the pockets of his wool coat, his hair tousled by the wind. I heard Vanessa moved away, he said when he reached us, offering a tired smile. Small town out west, changed her name. I know, I nodded. I got the report from the investigator last week. She's waiting tables, drowning in debt now that the trust money is gone. He nodded, kicking at a loose pebble with the toe of his shoe. How'd you find us here? Jenna told me. He shifted awkwardly. I wanted you to know, I testified at the disciplinary hearing. My eyebrows lifted slightly. You did? He nodded. Yeah, about what Vanessa did to Sophie. The medical board suspended the family doctor for covering it up. Sophie squeezed my hand. I felt the tension ease in my shoulders. One more consequence neither Margot nor Vanessa ever saw coming. Thank you, I said quietly. Ethan stared out over the cemetery for a long moment. Is it true about your mom, that she lost the house? I nodded, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. The trust sold it last week. To who? A family, 3 kids, young couple, can't wait to renovate it. I smiled slightly. The money's already gone to the new Sophie's Hope Pavilion at St. Clair. Your dad would have liked that, he said, voice softer now. Yeah, I agreed. He really would have. Sophie tugged my sleeve. Can I go play by the oak tree, just for a minute? Of course. I smiled as she skipped away, her hair catching the sunlight and dark waves. Stronger now. Lighter. The nightmares were finally gone. Ethan watched her with a half smile. She's resilient. She is, I nodded, following her with my gaze. More than any of us knew. He shifted his weight. Listen, there's something else. I sighed. There always is. It's your mother, he sighed. She's been calling my office, trying to get me to help her appeal the trust decision. Says she's living in some tiny apartment now. Good. The answer came faster than I expected. No guilt, no hesitation. You really don't feel bad? He asked, eyebrows lifting slightly. I thought about Sophie collapsed on that stage, about the years of swallowing my sister's cruelty while my mother watched in silence, offering nothing but thin-lipped judgment and blame. I thought about the letters Dad had written, the ones my mother hid, thinking I would never find them. No, I said finally, I don't feel bad. Ethan let out a breath. Yeah, I get it. Mom, Sophie's voice flowed over from the oak tree. Look what I found. She ran back, breathless, holding something in her hand. A perfect red maple leaf. The same color as the rose tip. Can we press it in your journal, like Grandpa taught us? My throat tightened. Yeah, baby, of course we can. Ethan cleared his throat. I should go, he said. I wanted you to know. You did the right thing. All of it. After he left, Sophie and I stood in front of Dad's headstone, letting the wind tangle our hair, sending leaves spiraling around our feet. Do you miss them? Sophie asked suddenly. Grandma and Aunt Vanessa? I swallowed. I miss who I wanted them to be, I said honestly, but not who they really are. Sophie nodded slowly, processing it. Me too. She knelt again and set the red maple leaf carefully next to the sugar candy. But I'm glad we have each other. I smiled. Me too, baby. My phone buzzed one last time. Jenna. Hospital board approved the new Sophie's Hope Pavilion, the trust money's doing good things. I held the screen out for Sophie to see. Her face lit up. Want to go play piano for the kids in the cancer ward again? I asked. Her whole face brightened. Yes, I learned a new piece just for them. As we walked back to the car, I glanced over my shoulder one more time. Dad's headstone stood quietly beneath the oak tree. The red-tipped rose, the sugar candy, the maple leaf. Small tokens, tiny monuments to memory. They say revenge is sweet, but this was never about revenge. It was about justice, about protecting what mattered, about choosing love over obligation. Dad had known that. That's why he left the trust to me, because he knew exactly what would happen one day. Ready? Sophie asked, climbing into the passenger seat. Ready, I answered, smiling as I pulled away from the curb. Ready for whatever came next, because they were wrong. Family isn't forever. Family is a choice, and sometimes the best choice is to let go of the one you were born into and build the one you deserve. Sophie was already humming the melody of her new piece as we drove away, and I smiled. This was our forever now, and it was better than anything revenge could ever give. This story reminds us of one of life's most painful yet powerful lessons. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, loyalty, and the courage to protect what truly matters. When betrayal comes from those closest to us, it hurts in ways words can barely describe. But as you saw, standing up against cruelty, even when it comes from family, is not just an act of defiance. It's an act of love for yourself and the people who deserve your protection. It's about breaking generational cycles of manipulation, abuse, and silence. This story proves that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away, not in weakness, but in strength. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story like this. Your support means the world and helps me continue bringing you content that inspires, heals, and empowers. And before you go, I'd love to know, which region or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. Let's see how far this message travels across the world. Thank you for being here.